the sacred rebellion of choosing yourself. You know what nobody tells you about starting over? That it isn't a one time event. It isn't this dramatic movie moment where you pack your bags, walk into the sunset, and never look back. Starting over is actually seasonal. It happens again and again throughout your life, sometimes quietly, sometimes loudly, but always with this uncomfortable invitation to let go of who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. And if you're a Black woman, well, starting over comes with a whole different set of rules, or rather, a whole different set of expectations that you're supposed to follow without question. Be strong, don't cry, hold it together, keep going. You've got this. But what if you don't got this? What if you're tired? What if the cape is heavy and you just want to put it down for a minute? What if the very act of admitting that feels like betrayal? I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Kay Thompson for a conversation that honestly felt more like a soul excavation than a traditional interview. Kay is someone who understands the weight of that cape, the exhaustion of always being strong, and the radical courage it takes to choose softness instead. She's a voice for women who are ready to stop performing strength and start embodying wholeness. Her work is reshaping how we think about resilience, rest, and what it actually means to thrive, not just survive. Through our conversation, three truths emerged that I believe every woman, especially every Black woman navigating her own season of starting over, needs to hear. First, starting over is not a setback, it's a natural part of life seasons. Second, softness and vulnerability are sources of authentic strength. And third, community and self care are essential for thriving, not just surviving. Let me say that again because I know some of you are already mentally arguing with me. Softness is strength, not weakness, not giving up, not being less than. Strength. Now, I want to introduce you to three women whose stories illustrate these truths in ways that are so powerful, so necessary, that I believe they'll shift something in you today. These aren't just success stories, these are survival stories. These are stories of women who decided that the old script wasn't working anymore and rewrote the ending. Let's start with Dawn Marie Pirani Brumfield. Dawn Marie is a Black woman leader who decided she was done playing by the old rules. She's a nurse researcher, a mentor and advocate, and someone who has spent her career redefining what strength and success actually look like in professional, personal, and faith communities. But here's the thing: Dawn Marie didn't get there by being harder, tougher, or more unbreakable. She got there by being more herself. She faced systemic inequities. She faced the pressure to conform to traditional ideas of what a strong Black woman leader should be. The kind of leader who doesn't complain, doesn't ask for help, doesn't show weakness. The kind of leader who sacrifices herself on the altar of excellence and calls it service. And instead of shrinking or performing, she committed to lifelong learning, led with empathy, and integrated her full identity, her Blackness, her womanhood, her authenticity into her leadership. She didn't leave parts of herself at the door. She brought all of herself into the room. And that in itself was revolutionary because when you show up as your whole self in spaces that were designed to only accept a fraction of you, you don't just change the room, you change the rules. The outcome: Dawn Marie influenced national discussions on maternal health equity. She improved protocols for underserved populations. She inspired a new generation of nurse researchers. She elevated the visibility of Black women in healthcare leadership and advocacy, achieving national impact. Her work has reshaped conversations about Black women's leadership and wellness, making space for authenticity and systemic change. Dawn Marie's story is proof that embracing life seasons, integrating all aspects of your identity, and using softness as a tool for transformative leadership isn't just possible, it's powerful. It's revolutionary. It's the kind of leadership that doesn't just open doors, it builds new buildings. Now let's talk about Shelley Bell. Shelley is a Black woman entrepreneur who looked around and saw that Black women in business were facing unique barriers: lack of funding, lack of mentorship, lack of access to traditional networks, limited representation. And instead of just surviving those barriers herself, she decided to build something that would help other women thrive. She founded Walker's Legacy, an organization that offers targeted programming, networking, and business education specifically for Black women. But here's what makes Shelley's work so important. She didn't just create another business network, she created a space for vulnerability and community. She shifted the narrative from survival to possibility, from scarcity to abundance, from isolation to connection. Walker's Legacy has become a national model for supporting Black women in business, with ongoing programming and networking events that continue to inspire Black women to pursue entrepreneurship from a place of support, not isolation. Shelley's story demonstrates how community and vulnerability turn perceived setbacks into opportunities for collective growth and empowerment. Because here's the truth: you can't do this alone. You were never meant to. And the idea that asking for help, leaning on community, or admitting you need support is somehow weak, that's a lie. That's the lie that keeps us stuck, exhausted, and isolated. That's the lie that keeps us performing instead of healing. Shelley understood something that many of us are just beginning to learn: that building something sustainable, something that lasts, requires more than hustle. It requires rest. It requires community. It requires the courage to be vulnerable enough to say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to figure it out together. And then there's Trisha Hersey. Trisha is the founder of the Nap Ministry. And if you haven't heard of her work, let me tell you, it's changing lives. Trisha advocates for Black people, especially Black women, to reclaim rest as a form of self preservation and healing. She's challenging the cultural pressure to overwork, the generational cycles of neglecting self care, and the myth that strength means never stopping. Trisha implemented boundaries. She invested in therapy. She openly discussed mental health. And she encouraged others to prioritize wellness, not as a luxury, but as a necessity, as a right, as an act of resistance. The outcomes: improved mental health, resilience, and thriving businesses for those who embraced these principles. The Nap Ministry has collaborated with major brands and inspired countless Black women to set boundaries and pursue healing as empowerment. Trisha's movement has shifted national conversations about productivity, wellness, and legacy for Black communities. She's teaching us that rest is resistance, that softness is survival, that saying no is sacred, that your body is not a machine and your worth is not measured by your output. Let that sink in for a moment. Your worth is not measured by your output. How many of us have been taught the opposite? How many of us have been conditioned to believe that our value is directly tied to how much we produce, how much we give, how much we endure? How many of us have been running on empty for so long that we've forgotten what it feels like to be full? Trisha's work is a reminder that rest isn't laziness. Rest is repair. Rest is rebellion. Rest is how we reclaim our humanity in a world that profits from our exhaustion. So let's bring this back to you, because this isn't just about Dawn Marie, Shelley, or Trisha. This is about you. This is about the season you're in right now. Maybe you're starting over after a divorce. Maybe you're starting over after losing someone you love. Maybe you're starting over in your career, your faith, your friendships. Maybe you're just starting over in how you see yourself. And maybe, just maybe, you're exhausted from pretending you're not tired. Here's what Kay Thompson shared with me during our interview, and I want you to really hear this. Starting over is not a setback, it's a natural part of life seasons. Just as seasons change, So do the phases of our lives. Embracing this cyclical nature allows us to grow rather than resist necessary change. You're not failing because you're starting over. You're evolving, you're shedding what no longer fits so you can step into what does. And that takes courage, that takes softness, that takes a willingness to be vulnerable enough to admit that the old way isn't working anymore. Kay also reminded me that softness and vulnerability are sources of authentic strength. Redefining what it means to be strong, especially as Black women, means letting go of the need to always appear unbreakable and instead allowing space for healing, rest, and true connection. Let me tell you something. The world has taught us that strength looks like silence, that strength looks like endurance, that strength looks like never breaking, never bending, never asking for help. But that's not strength, that's survival. And there's a difference. Strength is saying, I need help. Strength is setting a boundary. Strength is choosing rest even when the world tells you to keep going. Strength is showing up as your full, authentic, messy, beautiful self and trusting that you are enough exactly as you are. And finally, Kay emphasized that community and self care are essential for thriving, not just surviving. Building supportive networks and prioritizing mental health are not just personal acts. They create ripple effects that uplift entire communities and change narratives for future generations. When you choose to rest, you give someone else permission to rest. When you set a boundary, you show someone else that boundaries are possible. When you ask for help, you remind someone else that they don't have to do it alone. Your healing is not just for you, it's for all of us. It's for your daughter, it's for your niece, it's for the woman sitting next to you who's been holding her breath for years. This is the heart of what Kay Thompson and I talked about. This is the sacred pause Black women have been waiting for. It's not a trend, it's a lifestyle rebellion, a deep exhale from the Superwoman script, a quiet but powerful return to softness, rest, self trust, and radical joy. You don't have to keep wearing the cape. You don't have to keep pretending you're not tired. You don't have to keep sacrificing yourself to prove you're strong enough. You are already strong enough. You are already enough. And your softness, that's not your weakness, that's your superpower. So here's what I want you to do, not tomorrow, not next week, today. I want you to reflect on the season you are currently in and identify one area where you can embrace softness, whether that means setting a boundary, asking for help, or simply allowing yourself to rest. Take one concrete step to honor that season and trust that growth will follow. Maybe that means saying no to something you've always said yes to. Maybe that means reaching out to a friend and admitting you're struggling. Maybe that means taking a nap without guilt. Maybe that means letting yourself cry. Maybe that means starting therapy. Maybe that means joining a community like Walker's Legacy, or following the NAP ministry, or finding a mentor like Dawn Marie. Whatever it is, I want you to do it because the world doesn't need another version of you that's burned out, hollowed out, or checked out. The world needs the version of you that's rested, whole, and free. The version of you that knows her worth isn't tied to her productivity. The version of you that can look in the mirror and say, I am enough exactly as I am. And here's the truth that nobody tells you. When you start choosing yourself, when you start prioritizing your peace, when you start embracing your softness, people will have opinions. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll wonder why you're not the same woman who used to say yes to everything. And you know what? Let them wonder because this isn't about them. This is about you. This is about reclaiming your life, your joy, your peace. This is about refusing to live by a script that was never written for your freedom. So take a breath, let your shoulders drop, give yourself permission to be exactly where you are, and trust that this season, this starting over, this softness is leading you exactly where you need to go. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too much or not enough. You are right on time. You are healing. You are whole. And your softness, that's not your weakness. That's your revolution.